Hello, and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video, we're going to continue our look at the Planar Chaos set, and we're going to look at Ixidor's Legacy, which is a mono blue deck. So let's take a look at the deck list. So, 28 creatures, which is not something I think you would normally expect on a mono blue deck. 6 instants, 2 enchantments, 24 land, mana curve off to the side there. Let's start delving through all the creatures. So, part of the reason why it's actually a lot of creatures is a lot of the cards in the deck have Morph. So Morph is back in Time Spiral Block. Real grab bag of mechanics, Time Spiral Block. Yeah, it's really refreshing to see all these old mechanics being used. So Morph, if you're very new to the game, Morph is an ability on usually creatures, but some other permanents can have it. Very rarely, but mostly creatures. Means you can pay 3 generic mana to play it face down as a 2/2 creature, has no color or type, and then at any point you can turn it face up by paying its morph cost. And a lot of creatures have an effect when they're turned face up. So we have Aquamorph Entity here as an example of that. So 2 colors and 2 blue is an XX. It has morph, so you can put it face down, or you can and then morph it for 2 colors and a blue. When it comes into play or it's turned face up, it is either a 5/1 or a 1/5, which is pretty fun ability. I feel like that's overcosted slightly. I mean, it does have this flexibility that it can be kind of whatever you need to be, like either a really good attacker or a really good blocker. But yeah, I think it's okay. Obviously, if it was just a 5/1 or a 1/5, I feel like it'd be 1 mana cheaper. But yeah, this is okay. Just the fact it has the flexibility, and if you want, you can just leave it as a 2/2 and just use it that way. We have a single Brine Elemental, so 4 colors and 2 blue for a 5/4. Morph, so you can turn it face up for 5 colors and 2 blue. So it's a rare instance where the morph cost is higher than its casting cost. That's because its ability is quite good. When it's turned face up, every opponent skips their untap step. Their next untap step, not all their untap steps. That would be insane. And on top being a 5/4 as well. So that is a pretty strong ability. There's a combo involving this card, and it's called Pickles because it's brine. I can't remember how it plays out. It's something to do with its face up ability and like triggering it in a weird way. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, it has some history, some legacy because of that combo. But yeah, I think this is like a perfectly fine card. I say that effect is really strong, just making all opponents skip their next untap step, basically time walks them. So yeah, pretty good, I think. We have 2 Coral Tricksters, 1 colors, 1 blue for a 2/1, and you can morph it for a single blue. When it's turned face up, you can tap or untap target permanent. I've tried to be good with these Time Spiral era cards and not go off too much of a tangent about like all the references and kind of trivia related to the cards. This is one of my favorites though, because so the flavor text of Coral Trickster, they wait in darkened depths, laughing eagerly. If you take the first letter of each word, you get Twiddle, which is the spell effect this card mimics when you turn it face up. Twiddle being a spell for 1 blue that taps or untaps a permanent. So there we go. I promise that's the last and only time maybe that I do this kind of trivia on a Time Spiral card. That is one of my absolute favourites. Little tidbits though. Then we have 3 Fathom Seers, so 1 colors, 1 blue for a 1/3, which is actually not bad just to cast it as is. You don't have to morph this one to get, I feel like, value out of it. But it's got morph, so you can play it face down. Its morph cost is to return 2 islands you control to owner's hand, and when it's turned face up, you draw 2 cards. So by morphing this, you're essentially adding 4 cards back into your hand. The 2 islands and then the 2 cards you draw, and that does matter for some of the cards you've got in the deck, like having cards in hand. The fact you can do this for free, if you do need to do the card draw, yeah, I think it's okay. We have 2 fledgling Morcors, so 3 colours and a blue for a 2/2 with flying. Taps do 1 damage to target creature or player, so somehow blue is still hanging on to its ping abilities. It hasn't fully gone over to red yet. This is like a nod back to the old Morcor card. It has more for double blue. Yep, just again perfectly fine card. 2 Riptide Pilferer, so 1 colours and 1 blue for a 1/1. Whenever Riptide Pilferer deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card, and it has morph 1 blue. So it has this slightly different card frame. That's because it is a color shifted card in Planar Chaos. This represents a card that is kind of doing something that sort of makes sense for its color, but is kind of considered like, oh, it's a bit weird to be doing it. And it's a color shifted version of another card that's already printed. So I think this is Skull Snatcher, which is like a cleric from Onslaught block, which has this effect. When it does damage to a player, they discard a card and it morphs for only a single mana. So that's like the theme of Planar Chaos, is these color shifted cards, and like just in general cards having abilities that you wouldn't normally associate with a color. Like Shaper Parasite here, actually. So 1 colour and 2 blue for a 2/3, has morph. When it's turned face up, target creature gets +2/-2 or -2/+2 to end of turn. So, the +2/-2 ability is something we'd more associate with black, that kind of, increasing power but decreasing toughness. That's common in a lot of black spells. It's not normally an effect we, see in blue. Blue typically doesn't really care about increasing power or toughness. There's certainly some blue effects that set power and toughness to a certain value, but not really changing it. And that's what I mean. In Planar Chaos, we have sort of mechanics bleeding over to other colors, and it makes it really interesting. It's why I really like it as a set. A lot of people don't. They think it kind of violates some of like the key tenets of the game, I suppose. But I think it's interesting. We have a single Slipstream Serpent, so 7 and a blue, so very expensive for a 6/6. It can't attack unless defending player controls an island, and when you control no island, sacrifice Slipstream Serpent, and it has more for 5 and a blue. So this is like a homage to like the old kind of Sea Serpent cards that blue used to have in older sets. The fact it can't attack unless the defending player controls an island is like, honestly, it's such a big drawback, and it has no other ability apart from that. It's just a 6/6. For 8 mana, which is really expensive. Actually, what you can do with this is have it morphed. I just realised you can play it face down, attack with it, and then morph it after it's attacked, because then you've bypassed its attack restriction, and then suddenly you'll swing with a 6/6. So okay, in that regard, fine, I suppose. It's a very long-winded way of essentially giving it +4/+4. But yeah, it's all right. It's all right. In that regard, as a kind of a cute trick, but it's generally just kind of a bad card. Then we have a single Willbender, which is a time-shifted card because it's in the classic frame with the purple expansion symbol. So 1 colour, 1 blue. You can morph it for 1 and a blue, and when it's turned face up, you change the target of a spell or ability. Super good card. This was always a good card back in Onslaught block, so really good that it got reprinted here, where there was a lot of morph cards to kind of support it. And it's a deck where, this is the thing with Willbender, its effect is really good, and typically, like, if it's the only morph card you play, like, there's no surprise to it. You just essentially have it face down, and your opponent knows what it is. Again, is it Willbender? Like, maybe. I'm not playing any other morph cards. We have a single Crook Claw Transmuter, 3 cards in blue for a 3/1 flying with flash. When it comes to play, you can switch a creature's power and toughness till end of turn, which is kind of a funky effect. There's again, like some blue cards in the set that care about switching power and toughness around. I think that's an okay ability. A fun play with this is obviously if your opponent has like a really big defender, something like, I don't know, just off the top of my head, like Steel Wall, which is like a 0/4, just come in and do this, and it kills the Steel Wall, turns it into a 4/0. Like 4 mana is quite expensive, I think, with this effect, though. It is a 3/1 fly with flash, I suppose. It can come in and turn itself into a 1/3 fly if it needs to block, I suppose. Anyway. Single Merfolk Thaumaturgist, 2 cards in a blue, 1/2 tap to switch a creature's power and toughness at the end of turn. Yep, Yeah, it's just a kind of a repeatable Crook Claw Transmuter. I think it's actually better because it is repeatable, honestly. And then Serendib Sorcerer. This is one of the rares in the deck. So 1 cast and 2 blue, 1/1. Tap target creature other than Serendib Sorcerer becomes a 0/2 till end of turn. This is really good. This is a color shifted. Color shifted. Oh, was it Sorceress Queen from way back in like Arabian Nights, I think. So combined with Merfolk Thaumaturgist, this is like a 2-card combo for like just killing anything. Because you make it into a 0/2 and then switch its power and tough, so it's a 2/0. And unless it's got like counters or like an aura on it that increases its power or toughness, then yeah, it's pretty hard to yeah, once that combo gets rolling, it's pretty hard to stop. They're basically killing a creature every turn. Even without doing that, just giving something base power and toughness 0/2 until end turn, like can really mess up, I think, combat maths, and yeah, just makes big creatures obviously a lot less scary. So yeah, good rare to have, I think. We have 2 Primal Plasma, 3 cards in a blue for an XX. This is a color shifted version of Primal Clay. When it comes into play, it's either a 3/3 or a 2/2 with Flyer or a 1/6 with Defender. Yeah, I really like Primal Plasma. I think it's a really cool card. Just the fact it can be whatever you want to be, like Primal Clay. Yeah, I just think it's a fun card. I mean, even though it's almost functionally identical. Yeah, I think it's a cute card. A single Joda's Avenger, 5 colors in a blue for a 4/4. You can pay 0 until end of turn. It gets -1/-1, and your choice of double strike, protection from red, vigilance, or shadow. So I mean, attacking with this and then making a 3/3 double strike is pretty good. I mean, you could knock this down to, I guess, a 2/2, give it shadow and double strike, and then it's still doing 4 damage essentially if it attacks. Because hardly anything's going to block it when it has shadow. There are some cards with shadow in the block, but not many. So that's potentially it's very sort of an expensive card, but that ability being free is obviously really good, and if you can find a way to increase its power or toughness, then yeah, I think you're in for a good time. You just use whatever ability is most useful. And again, it's fun seeing like blue cards get abilities they don't normally have, like double strike or protection or vigilance, which normally would associate with white cards. Or yeah, so it's fun to see. That's why I like Planar Chaos. It's fun to see other colors getting different toys to play with. 2 Dreamstalkers, 1 cast in the blue for a 1/5. When it comes to play, you have to return a permanent you control to owner's hand. This is a fun way of like resetting your morph creatures, like get them back to hand and you can play them with morph again to get their effects again, I suppose. 2 Tidewalkers, 2 cards in the blue for an XX, comes into play with a time counter on it for every island you control. It has vanishing, so every upkeep you have to remove a time counter, and when it's got no more time counters on it, it dies. And its power and toughness equals the number of time counters on it. So yeah, just kind of a roundabout way of just having a big old fat creature. It's okay. So the other rare of the deck is Eon Chronicler. So 3 cards and 2 blue for an XX. Power and toughness is equal to the number of cards in your hand. You can suspend it. We're for a really expensive cost. X 3 in a blue. X can't be 0. So that's minimum 5 mana you're spending to suspend it. Whenever a time counter is removed from Eon Chronicler, while it's suspended, you draw a card. So yeah, what do I think about it? I think that ability is really, really expensive, honestly. Like the suspend effect. Because I say you have to spend at least 5 mana to do this, and then you're only drawing 1 card out of it. And then I suppose it's coming then straight into play. I don't know. I don't know what to think about Eon Chronicler. I think that ability is just one. If it was like maybe like 2 colors of blue and X, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. And you actually don't have too many ways of drawing cards in the deck. I think you've got the Fathom Seers, which, to be fair, that adds 4 cards to your hand straight away. But yeah, there's not really that much other card draw in the deck, really, I think. Oh, I say that actually. There's one of the time shifted cards in the deck is a Venomancer. So 2 colors and a blue. When it comes to play, you have to sacrifice it unless you return 3 basic lands you control to owner's hand. So there we go. You got 3 lands back in your hand for Eon Chronicler. So a Venomancer is tap, return a Venomancer to its owner's hand, destroy a creature, it can't be regenerated, and then the creature's controller puts a 0/1 green sheep into play. Yeah, obviously the idea being that he's turning opponent's creatures into sheep. So I do like these when blue gets like these kind of polymorph effects. I think this is maybe one of the first ones because it's I think probably I want to say Visions or Mirage. This card is originally from. But yeah, these polymorph effects I think are pretty fun. Um, that is a huge cost to pay though to return 3 basic lands back to hand because you play this turn 3 and then you've got no land. And then to use its effect, you've got to tap and return the Avinamancer back. So then you've got to cast them again, returns that. So it's like it's kind of cute, I suppose, design, but like I don't think it's very effective. And yeah, I don't know if it's worth putting that much time and effort jumping through that many hoops just to kill a creature and still essentially give your opponent something. Like even if it is like just a 0/1 creature token, you're still giving them something. So yeah, maybe not great. And then moving on to non-creature spells. So two Ovenize, that's not a word. Ovenize. One cast in the blue. Target creature loses all abilities and becomes a 0/1 till end of turn. So this is a color shifted version of Humility, which was in pretty much every Urza's block preconstructed deck that had white in it. Just because it is basically a kill spell. You throw this on an enemy creature and you're pretty much guaranteed to kill it in combat. I do wish it wasn't exactly color shifted. I do wish it turned the creature into like a sheep as well, like it took away its creature types as well. But because obviously that would then match up with like the card's art and stuff. But it's fine as it is, obviously. Um, yeah, just I think just really good for two mana, just to essentially completely cripple a creature. A single Pongify. This is a great card. I love this card. 1 blue, just to destroy a creature can't be regenerated, which is great. But they get a 3/3 green ape instead of into play. Again, it's like representing like a polymorph kind of effect. You're turning a creature into a monkey. So this has kind of been reprinted in a way. I think in Return to Ravnica, you have rapid hybridization, which is exactly this card, but instead of an ape, it turns them into a lizard or something. There might be another version of it out there as well in another set, but those are the two that I can think of. This is a great card. Like it's a blue kill spell. And typically you're casting this on something where your opponent getting a 3/3 ape is much better than whatever they did have. So yeah, you're under the assumption you can easily deal with a 3/3 creature, whereas whatever you used this on was obviously worth using on. It's a single blue mana. It's so good, so good. And of course you can use this on your own stuff as well if you need to suddenly get a 3/3 creature out. Yeah, that's another use for it. We have 2 erratic mutations, 2 cards in the blue. Choose target creature. Reveal cards from the top of your library to reveal a non-land card. The creature gets +X, -X till end of turn, where X is the card's converted mana cost. Then put all cards revealed this way on the bottom of your library in any order. So you can put them in order that you want, if that matters. This kind of suffers from the downside of like you don't know what X is going to be. You have to choose your target first and then kind of roll the dice basically and hope that the X is what you want it to be, either increasing your creature's power by enough to essentially get through and do enough damage, or it's reducing like an opponent's creature's toughness enough to kill it. So it's all right. I think it's just obviously very very random, but again it has this +X -X effect that the blue planar chaos cards have, which I like seeing. It's okay. It's okay, I think. And then we have 2 unstable mutations. So this is a time shifted card from I think like alpha or beta, like definitely one of the original sets. This was a blue aura back in the day. Yep, so it goes on a creature, gives the creature +3/+3, which for 1 blue mana is huge. It's absolutely huge. But at the beginning of the upkeep of enchanted creature control, it gets a -1/-1 counter. So it's the whole thing of it gets this really big boost for cheap, but then it slowly dies. I have no idea what's happening with the art as well. That's so weird. But Yeah, this is like a really fun card. Like, it actually makes like a kind of like aggressive blue deck possible because I say like a permanent +3/+3 for only one blue mana is really good. And yeah, it's going to slowly tick down, but like you've got at least 3 turns minimum of still like getting the benefit from this aura. And if you really desperately wanted to, you could put this on an opponent's creature and it slowly kills them. But like, I wouldn't recommend that. I think just play really aggressively with this card. So yeah, I think it's good. And then a single piracy charm. So Planar Chaos has a cycle of charms. I love charms. So one blue. Choose one, target creature gets Island Walk until end turn, or target creature gets +2/-1 till end turn, or target player discards a card. This is not my favourite charm in Planar Chaos. The white and the green ones are really, really good. This one's okay, because it's essentially giving something maybe unblockable if you're playing against another blue deck. Or it's kind of like a kill spell or pump spell. Or it's just actually instant speed discard, which is quite rare to see. So it's okay. It's okay. I kind of wish there was more than one, honestly. And then a single desert. Another time shifted card gives you colorless mana, or it does damage to an attacking creature, but only at the end of the combat step. Which I kind of like the narrative of that. That obviously the implication is they've spent all the time walking through the desert. I guess is what it's trying to convey. But yeah, this is fine. Again, kind of wish there was more than one, honestly, just as a way of kind of dealing indirect damage to attacking creatures. But yeah, it's okay. So what could have been? This is honestly using like most of the good blue cards from Planar Chaos, I think. It's kind of got like this morph theme, hasn't it? And then it sort of branches out and starts doing some weird other stuff. But some possibilities, I thought. Body double, I think actually might have been better than Eon Chronicler. I don't really think Eon Chronicler really fits in this deck. I think Body Double would have been okay. So this is clone, but it can only target things in a graveyard, which I think's okay. Like if you've got some discard effects in the deck, and just if you kill opponents' creatures, you've got your own stuff dies. You can target it with Body Double, I guess. Frozen Ether might have worked. This is color shifted Kismet, I think. So it just means pretty much every permanent your opponent plays comes into play tapped, which really slows them down. Yeah, pretty good card, Frozen Ether. And then Psionic Blast, I think, would have been a better time shifted card. Just because it's like a burn spell. It does damage to you as well, but like it's a burn spell in blue. I think this would have been better than like a Venomancer, personally. I don't know. So in summary, well, I mean, the theme is, I guess, like things changing their forms, isn't it? Because you've got morph creatures, you've got a lot of the +X, -X abilities. You've got a lot of effects that switch power and toughness. So it's very tricksy. There's a lot of different things going on in here, and I quite like that. Mostly because it is Planar Chaos Blue, and I say I like what Planar Chaos Blue cards generally do by being a bit weird. So yeah, definitely lots of little tricksy things you can play with in here. I just kind of wish it was like a little bit more focused, because I've got no doubt this deck could win when played, because you've got enough kind of weird little tricks you can do. But I know it's kind of falls into the usual trap of having about 3 or 4 things it wants to do, but it's not really focusing on any one of them. So it feels, I know. I feel like you'd have to, take the scenic route to try and win, basically. But overall, I think it's pretty good. But that's just my thoughts on the deck after looking at the deck list. What did you think of this deck? Did you own it, or I mean, if you just got any thoughts or opinions or stories about this deck, please put a comment below. I always like reading those. But I'll be back next time to look at another Planar Chaos pre-constructed deck. But until then, thank you for watching and listening, and have a great day.